The New York Mets and the Atlanta Braves are tied for first place with their series this weekend. Very much up in the air. How is it going to be played? We're going to be deep diving how it will be potentially played in tonight's show. We're going to be deep diving what was an abysmal Mets game for the New York Mets, and it was led by Cookie Carrasco, having another god-awful outing for the New York Mets in his last two starts now. Absolutely inexcusable to do this against the Miami Marlins. The Mets are now 1-6 at home this September when they're not playing the Pittsburgh Pirates. 1-6. You know, I had some worries heading into this game, guys, for the sole fact of the Mets. You know, they looked really good on the road. They had a phenomenal road trip. But for whatever reason, we talked about endlessly, they just, on a consistent level, have not been there against lesser teams. And with everything on the line today and for the next couple days, they just let it go by. They just let it go by. The reason why I'm so frustrated isn't just because of how the Mets lost today, but it's the matter of the Mets have shown time and time again that when they give up an early deficit at home, especially at home, because you look away, they were able to come back against the Brewers in Game 2 of that series, but at home especially, when they give up an early deficit, that's the demise of this team. When they do not score runs within the first 3 innings of a ball game, the chances of them winning such ball game are beyond slim. So, guys, we're going to be deep diving this ball game. I'm sharing my raw reactions. I'm absolutely pissed off because of the fact that, again, Carlos Carrasco is trying to make himself an impact to give him a reason for the Mets to consider him for the postseason roster, potentially in the rotation. That is out the door at this juncture. He had a piss-poor start the last time he was out, and he was just as bad this time. Cookie really setting up the table, which was a shitburger of a start, was the demise of the Mets in this game. And outside of Pete Alonso continuing to be red hot, thank you so much for that, Pete. I love you. You are the heart of this offense. Outside of Pete, the Mets did nothing today. They even had the umpires on their side later in this ball game. Well, not one, not two, but 3 balks. 3 balks that we saw there in the 8th. Somehow, some way that drove in McNeil from first. I mean, this was a ridiculous ball game. Absolutely inexcusable ball game. And it starts with the pitching. Mets got some nice relief by the bullpen. Trevor Williams, unfortunately, was not one of them because of the fact that he decided to throw a heater right down the pipe on an 0-2 count. Why are you not going down and away on Stallings there? I'm not happy. I'm not happy at all. This is ridiculous. McGill just missed my top 5, by the way. Tyler McGill had a really nice outing today. He just missed it because I thought Pearson and Diaz outpitched him, but he would have been there if it wasn't for the ump. I had to put the ump there because he literally gave the Mets a run today. I don't even know how worthy it was to call those by Bleav or Box, especially when that's been his windup his whole career. I was just as flabbergasted as the next guy. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how much I'm going to yell in this show versus I'm really just blown away on the Mets today. I really am. This was a game they absolutely need to win. They need to win every single game. We know that's easier said than done. We knew that the Atlanta Braves were in D.C., and we knew that they were going to win that ball game. When the Braves were losing 2-0, it did not matter. I mean, it didn't. I knew that they were going to come back. Of course they were. You're playing the Nationals in D.C. Of course you're going to play well. They went on to win, what was it, 7-2, whatever the final score was. And now the Mets, for the second time this year, really since the beginning of the year, are either tied in first or just behind in first. They're tied right now, and everything's going to come down to that series in Atlanta where we don't know exactly how it's going to be played. But again, we have some ideas. We're going to get into that. I'm just 8-2. Okay. This man, oh man, I'm not happy right now. I'm really not. It's inexcusable to perform this way for the New York Mets. And guys, make sure to smash that like and subscribe on as your first chiming in. Greatly appreciate it. Help us get 100 likes for the first short-term goal. Help us get an 18K subs for the first short-term goal. We're going to be breaking down the game in the next 5 to 10 minutes or so. But before I do, I got to share more raw thoughts on this ball game because the Mets offense wasn't completely putrid like we've seen in previous losses to lesser opponents. It wasn't like it was completely non-existent. But outside of Pete Alonso hitting his 40th home run of the year, shout out to you, Pete, 131 RBIs. We love you, buddy. Where was everybody? Where was everybody? They struggle mightily to get the ball out of the infield, not only with Pablo Lopez, but the remainder of the bullpen for the Marlins shut the Mets down. Outside of Bleav somehow, some way, having those 3 walks, they had nothing today. It is absolutely inexcusable for the Mets from the pitching. And the reason why I'm emphasizing Cookie so much and that pitch by Williams is because, again, for whatever reason, the Mets have proven that they are not a team that is going to casually come back consistently when they're down 3-4 runs within the first 3 innings. It's not going to happen. I knew that this ball game was over for the most part after they were down 4-0. Alonso made a 1-run ball game. I'm like, okay, it's a new ball game. But then nothing was happening after that. Then you would see the Marlins right away tack on 2 more from that Williams 0-2 pitch to Stallings. And any and all momentum that the Mets had at that juncture was completely sucked right out of them. It was gone. It was simply gone. And now the Mets, again, it's going to come down to that Atlanta series. We know that. But man, oh man. Shraken, thank you so much for the dono. I appreciate you hyping the chat to you, Shraken. Shraken says, Vientos been playing good, but why when Vogelback couldn't hit left in Wardy? I mean, the Vientos was going to come in, but he didn't get a chance to because the inning ended. I understood keeping Vogelback in against the righties. Vogie just didn't have it today at all. Vogelback was one of 3 Mets hitters. Pardon me. Was one of 3 Mets hitters that had nothing today, folks. Himself, Escobar, and Naquin did not even have a hit today. McBlam, thank you so much for the dono. Can't really help when the Marlins pitcher pitches the game out of his life out of nowhere. Pitching lost us this game. Unfortunately, I agree. Pitching lost the game because the pitching goes directly in with the offense. If you're a fan that thinks that the Mets, that this is solely on the offense, you're not paying attention. The pitching is what helps drive the offense. When the Mets get good pitching, and normally when they have a lead through the first 3 innings, they're in almost sure lock to win a ball game. But they have proven time and time again that they are a team that has not been able to consistently overcome that adversity, especially when they're playing a lesser opponent. It is what it is. It's frustrating as all hell, and that's why I have this as a rant stream, even though I'm not going to scream as much. Again, I'm still not 100%. That's why you hear the little coughs. Doing much better than what I was, though, even previous show that we did this right to cut things short. But this was a game that, again, you absolutely should have won. Same thing with tomorrow. If the Mets don't win tomorrow, I'm going to lose my mind. Tomorrow's going to be a lot worse. Today, I'm not happy at all. I'm beyond frustrated. But tomorrow will really be indicative on a lot of things. But one thing that I do want to share with you guys, Darren, how's it going? Great member in here. Appreciate you chiming in, brother. I know that it's a early day for you right now to watch this show, and I apologize for that. Julian with the dono. Loss is totally on Cookie. It's unacceptable to give up 4 runs to a team where their best hitter has 50 RBI. Exactly. This is exactly my point. The issue here is that, again, it's not like Cookie had a poor start against the Atlanta Braves. If he has a poor start against the Atlanta Braves, you can't say it's all that surprising, and you can understand that more. Cookie has not been a consistent big game pitcher for the New York Mets this year, where you can throw him out there against the best teams, and he's going to shove every time. But Cookie, now, in 2 straight starts, is getting absolutely cooked. He has nothing. He crumbled today. And because of his crumbling, the Mets did not know how to overcome that adversity. Pete Alonso did the best job he possibly could have to keep the Mets in this ball game, and then that 0-2 pitch to Stallings from Trevor Williams, and it was back to square one again. It was an uphill battle from the absolute jump in this ball game for the New York Mets offense, and that's why the pitching and Cookie Carrasco, in my opinion, are the heaviest to blame. If Cookie goes out there and gives you 5 to 6 innings of, say, 2 or 3 earned run ball, okay, you're in the ball game here. But when you give up 4 and 3, you're down 4-0 through the first 3 innings. I just hate how much these narratives continue for the Mets, especially over the past month, where, I mean, all season long it's felt like where I say this, and I preach this to you guys all when we have our post-game shows when the Mets win, and thank you again for that donation, Julian, I appreciate it. When the Mets score within the first 3 innings, you know that they are either going to win that ball game or they're going to get very close to. When the Mets surrender runs in those first 3 innings and do not score more than 1 run themselves, you're not feeling good. You're not. This has been something that they have consistently done. They've been consistently inconsistent against lesser opponents. When you are 1-6 versus the Nationals, the Cubs, and now the Marlins, here in the month of September, it's inexcusable. It's absolutely inexcusable. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's not. I'm not going to sit here and blame the entire team. The entire team wasn't at fault tonight. But just because of that poor start by Carlos Carrasco, when you need him to pitch decent at minimum most, when you only have now 7 games left on the year, he comes out and gives you a shitburger. That is the demise of your game, and that's very well is now the demise of the Mets not being in first place alone, at least, with them being tied by the Braves. The Braves are doing exactly what you're supposed to against lesser teams. The Mets had a great road trip. The Mets won. They went 4-2 on their road trip. You can't ask for anything more against the Brewers and against, I mean, I would have liked to sweep against the A's, but Jacob deGrom just did not have it. Man, oh man. I did see another donation. Let me get to that, guys. Then we'll start to break down this ball game. But what a ridiculous, man, oh man, I'm pissed. I'm not happy. And I apologize too if this is your first time watching the post-game show. Today, my new viewers, I don't like doing the rants. I'm not as juiced up as I was for the Cubs series. The Cubs series, when they got swept, I absolutely lost it. The only reason why I do these reactionary streams when it's a negative type thing like tonight is because of the fact that we need to call it how it is. Every game is so important. I've been watching this game since game one, this season rather, since game one. I follow this team to a T. I mean, I'm just as much as a diehard fan as the next guy out there, as many of you guys watching the show for the first time, or if you've been here as consistent viewers, great loyal supporters on the channel. And when you know the potential that this team has, you know how tight of a division race that they are in, and they are just not stepping up at home especially, that's a major red flag. Even when they swept the Pirates in the 4-game set, that was a huge bounce back for them. But that was still a team that you wanted to see a little bit more out of, okay? They were getting some things on their side, and they were facing a Pirates team that was swinging through the dick on every single pitch. I mean, you're not even going to get that with Miami right now. Miami played a good ball game. And with Don Mattingly having one of his final games as the manager of the Miami Marlins, they got the job done. And Buck Showalter, who, again, thankfully things did not hurt him when it came to Pearson and McGill, but you're basically giving tryouts to guys in the bullpen to see who's going to be in the best fit, in the best role for the Mets come playoff time. I get it, you need to do it at some point, but these games matter so much, every single one. And you could have warranted pulling Cookie Carrasco after he gave up those 2 runs in the first, just because there's such small room for error. There's little to none there. And Buck knows very well, Buck may say otherwise, but he knows damn well that when the Mets drop early runs at home for the past month and a half, if not longer, they are not a team that has been able to overcome that adversity. And we cannot be blind to these things. You need to address them. And the worst part of it all is that you're being blind to it when you're facing absolutely shit teams. The Marlins are not a good team. The Cubs are not a good team. The Nationals are not a good team. And you're making these teams play spoiler and look like clubs that are about to go win their respective divisions when it's the farthest thing from the truth. JV, thank you for the donation. Again, I say it, I don't trust. I don't either. And it sucks because there are plenty of points this year where I was very happy with Cookie's performance. But this is crunch time. This is literally crunch time. You got 2 more series after tomorrow, and that's the season. And every game means so much, okay? You're tied for first in the NL East, and this is how you perform today. This is how you perform today. Inexcusable. This loss starts and ends with Cookie Carrasco. JB, thank you for the dono. All right, guys, before we deep dive this ball game, I want to share one more thing because it's very important. The Mets' big matchup that they have, obviously, starting this weekend on Friday against the Atlanta Braves in Atlanta, which is more than likely going to dictate who wins this division. There is a big hurricane. Hurricane Ian is coming in, and it's going to hit Atlanta like a truck. Now, we've seen reports today that they've been discussing things on how they're going to go about the series. You know, are they going to have a neutral site where they can play separate from Atlanta and still get the games in? What are they going to do? Because there's no other time to make up these games. That's the issue, because when the season's done, playoff starts like the next day or the following day after that. So there's literally little to no time to try to cram in these games. So right now, it looks like there are 2 options right now for that series, guys. So pay close attention. The one option, which is not being spoken about as much, but very much is an option, in my opinion, is for both the Braves and the Mets to not have a travel day Thursday, and they fly out to Atlanta after their respective series finales tomorrow night in DC, in Miami, to Atlanta, and they play the first game of this series on a Thursday instead of Friday. The expected monsoon of bad weather from the hurricane is supposed to hit Atlanta most this Saturday. So the potential thought process is playing a game on Thursday when both teams were supposed to have an off day, which the Mets can do fine. All their pitchers will still line up fine because they just had an off day the other day. So they can do that. The Braves can do that. You play Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. Or you do a double header on either Friday or Sunday. So those are your 2 to 3 options right now. I think it would. I don't think it's a bad idea at all to play on Thursday if they do it. Because in my opinion, I would like to see 3 night games between these two teams, or just 3 games where they're separate. I think the doubleheader takes away from the intensity a little bit of, again, this series is going to dictate who wins the division, basically. You know, you could get away with the doubleheader that the Mets had last time when they played against the Braves at home because it was a 5-game set. But I would say you're going to look at either Thursday for a game instead of there being an off day because it lines up perfectly for both teams. Tuning out, why is he talking about the damn Braves series? Hate him because it's important, Hayden. If you don't think that Braves series is important for the Mets, then clearly you're not following the team. That's why we're talking about it right now. You can feel free to tune out. But all Mets fans are care about is the build up to that Braves series. That Braves series means everything to both teams, to both fan bases. That's how it is. So that's why we're breaking it down, because we got weather updates on it today. By all means, go somewhere else, you know. But the last thing that's ever going to do is faze me if you're bothered by that. So what's up, Hogwatch? So Thursday, Friday, Sunday. Friday, Sunday with a doubleheader. Friday with a doubleheader. Sunday with a normal game. Those are your 3 options, I would say. All right, guys, let's break down this Mets ball game because it was not a pretty one. It was not a pretty game at all. Not happy about it. Again, the Mets dropped game 1 of a 2-game set against the Miami Marlins, and the Mets need to make sure that they avoid being swept in a 2-game set to Miami. Carlos Carrasco was on the bump today. We saw that. What's up, Mets fan? Bleav got hurt today, too. I think he's going to be okay. I think it was just a stainer. I'm not too concerned by it, but we'll see. Will the Mets win the division, Hog? We'll find out when it comes to that Braves series. Rojas with a walk. Anderson with an Oppo Bloop single. And I'm going to go quick with the stats from this game because I just want to share more of my raw reactions. If you guys watched the ball game, you know what happened. It was not a pretty one. Outside of Pete Alonso staying absolutely red hot. And thank God for that. Because without Pete, again, the Mets don't even score 1 run today. I don't even think the box happened because it might be a different pitching situation in the 8th. Who knows? Either way, Anderson with an Oppo Bloop single. Cooper with an Oppo single. Brian De La Cruz with an RBI sac fly. Bleav with a walk. Anderson scores on a wild pitch. It was a terrible, terrible play there by James McCann. Let it go right through the wickets. Pass ball. That scores a run. Terrible block job by him. I mean, McCann, if you're not going to hit, we need your good defense. And he came to provide that. That was not pretty at all. Not good at all for the Mets. And just like that, the Mets are down 2-0 in this ball game in the first. In the second, Groshans with a single. Diaz with a single. Birdie reaches on an Eduardo Escobar error. He wanted to try to turn 2, then he dropped the ball because he had his head up too quick and looking around without securing the baseball. Rojas with a double play, and that was a nice double play turned by Cookie, thrown a home, and then McCann threw to Pete Alonso at first, and Anderson with a ground out to end the inning. So Carrasco, who was in a bases juiced no-out jam in the second, finds a way to Houdini things and gets out of it. You think, okay, the Mets, they get out of that jam. Maybe they do have themselves a ball game here. However, we get to the third. De La Cruz with a double, one of his 2 on the day. And then Bleav with a 2-run home run. The shallowest home run given up at Citi Field this year. It was only around 340-something feet. It just got out. Man, that one hurt. So it was a 4-0 ball game at that juncture. We get to the 4th, everybody. Trevor Williams comes in the ball game, has a nice 1-2-3 inning. In the 4th, starting to talk about Mets offense because they had nothing those first 3 innings. Nimmo with an oppo single, Lindor with an oppo single, oppo double rather, hits off the carom there by the third baseline. He legs it from a single to a double, and then Jeff McNeil with a pop out, and Pete Alonso absolutely rips it down and in, out of the zone pitch, 400 feet for a 3-run home run. I feel like Alonso, he's had what? 3? I'm trying to think. Alonso has now had 5 home runs in his past 3 series. He had two 3-run home runs that we saw there in Milwaukee. Then he had 2 home runs back-to-back nights in Oakland. And now he has himself another home run, his 40th of the year for Pete Alonso, 131 RBIs on the year for Big Meat Pete, who's having just such a tremendous year for the Mets and is getting red hot when they need him to most. Mets would not do anything else that inning. However, then we get to the 5th. Anderson with the leadoff double. Cooper with a hit by pitch. LeBlanc takes over at first base. Cooper comes out of the game. It was a bad hit by pitch by Williams. And then De La Cruz strikes out. Bleav with a bloop single. And Stallings on an 0-2 count, as we already discussed plenty, gets a fastball right down the pipe and rips it for a 2-run single. That makes it a 6-3 ball game. Bad location by Williams. Bad calling by McCann, even though I don't think McCann was calling a fastball down the pipe there. That was just bad location by Williams. I know that we like to gripe about McCann and his bad defense, especially what we saw there in the first with that pass ball. But this one is far more on Williams, just missing his location. He knew it right away. McCann was not happy either. And it's a 3-run ball game again after the Mets made it a 1-run ball game thanks to that Alonso home run just the inning prior. We get to the bottom of the 5th with 2 outs. McCann with a base knock. He snaps his 0-for-20 skid. Mets don't do anything there. In the 6th, David Pearson comes in to pitch. 1-2-3 inning. Nice inning for him. In the 6th, everybody, with 1 out. Jeff McNeil with a single. Alonso with a strikeout. Vogie grounds out to end the inning. Daniel Vogelback did not have a good day for the Mets today. I've been saying that far more often than I feel I should have. He was hitting well prior to today, even though he hadn't hit in a while because he barely hit at all. If at all in the Oakland A's series, because they face southpaws as starters every single start, and they're facing plenty of lefty relievers. But yeah, Vogie off the bench for the first time in a bit, where he hasn't had a start in a while, did not look good today, unfortunately. And again, he wasn't the only one, but he definitely stood out like a sore thumb quite a bit. No less, in the 7th, we see there Anderson with a single, LeBlanc with a walk, De La Cruz with a double play ball, and Bleav with a fly out to end it. So David Pearson, who had a 2-on no-out jam, gets out of that jam, and that's why David Pearson is in my top 5 today. I thought David pitched well, all things considered. Again, didn't have his best stuff, but was able to keep things in it, and again, did not surrender a run, nor did any Mets reliever for the remainder of that game once Williams exited. We get to the bottom of the 7th. Canna with a single from an 0-2 count to a full count. Goes dead center. Nice base knock for Canna. Eduardo Escobar reaches on a fielder's choice. Naquin with a fly out, and McCann with a ground out ends the inning. In the 8th, Tyler McGill comes in. Stallings with a walk. Groshans with a walk. Talk about Houdini stuff. We saw with Cookie in the 2nd. We saw with David Pearson there in the 7th. And now we see with Tyler McGill in the 8th getting out of jams. This is great mental toughness. Bulldog mentality for McGill, facing adversity and overcoming it. Diaz with a strikeout, Birdie with a ground out, and then Williams with a strikeout ends the inning. So Tyler McGill, who walks the first 2 batters he sees today, gets out of that jam unscathed. Good for Tyler. In the bottom of the 8th, with 2 outs, Jeff McNeil with a base knock. McNeil would then reach 2nd, 3rd, and eventually home, scoring a run because of 3 straight balks by Mr. Richard Bleav, the 35-year-old right-hand reliever for the I think he's a lefty. Pardon me. I don't think he's a righty. Left-hand reliever for the Florida Marlins, Miami Marlins. They're Florida, same thing. That was I still can't comprehend that. That's why I have the ump in my top 5. But man, oh man, the Mets could do nothing with it. Alonso grounded out to end the inning. Edwin Diaz came in for a beautiful top of the 9th. Gave up 1 base knock after beautiful back-to-back strikeouts. I believe one was slider, one was 100+ mile-per-hour fastball. De La Cruz would then get a ground roll double to the right side, and Bleav with a strikeout ends the inning. The Mets do nothing in the bottom of the 9th, and that is how they end up losing by a total score of 6-4. If on April 1st, says Bill in the chat, they offered you Mets and Braves tied after 155 games, would I have taken it? To begin the year, To begin the year, I would say yes, absolutely. Going into the year, I did not expect the Mets to dominate the division for the entirety of the year the way that they have. The Mets have surprised us all in many ways because even though they made a lot of great acquisitions in the offseason, the biggest one being Buck Showalter, the Max Scherzer, Starling Marte, etc. That was so much turmoil in one offseason. That was still a big question mark how the Mets would perform this year, even with things on paper looking night and day and a better notion than what they were in the 2021 year. So yes, I absolutely would have taken that on April 1st. But looking back now, when you've had first all year long and the way that you're consistently losing games in first by losing two bad teams, that is what is inexcusable about what is going on with this Mets team right now. It's different if the Mets are dropping, say this was a 6-4 ball game, but you're losing it to, say, the Cardinals or something. Yes, it might be frustrating, but it's a little bit more justified when you're playing better teams. It's not justified when you're playing the Miami fucking Marlins. It's not justified getting swept by the Chicago Cubs. It's not justified losing a series to start the month of September to the Washington Nationals. So that is the bigger gripe here, especially when you do not get pitching today, when you only have 7 games left this year, and now you're tied for first in the division. If that was not the case, it's a different discussion. So yes, I absolutely would have taken it going into the year, 100%. And I love this team, and I'm excited as all hell. I mean, talking about adding fuel to the fire for this matchup against Atlanta, it's going to dictate everything. It really is, because if the Braves win 2 or 3, they're likely going to win the division. If the Mets win 2 or 3, they're likely going to win the division. Things will not be officially wrapped up on the division, more than likely, for either side until at least 1 game into their final series of the year, if not 2. But the point stands is that whoever wins a game in that Atlanta series, you gain a full game. It's not a half game because the guy you're facing off against is right in front of you, and the Mets. Same thing vice versa. If the Mets win and the Braves lose. Josie, I did give credit to the Marlins. They played a better game than the Mets today. I'm not saying that the Marlins played bad. They definitely played enough to win the ball game. They jumped on Carlos Carrasco, who for his second straight start did not have his good stuff. They did exactly what they were supposed to. They deserve credit for that, 100%. Doesn't change the fact that the Mets should have played better. Simply put, the Mets should not be getting outplayed by the Miami Marlins. They should not be getting outplayed by these teams. And again, if you put the Pittsburgh Pirates aside, the Mets are 1-6 at home this month against lesser opponents. That's not going to fly. That is not going to fly. And again, I hope the Mets tee up on Luzardo tomorrow. They teed up on him last time they faced him in Miami over this past month. But they teed up on Pablo Lopez as well. And Lopez came in and got the job done. Lopez finally pitched like a guy that's been pitching pretty strong all year when not facing the Mets. He finally did that against the Mets. His only hiccup was a really good pitch that Pete Alonso just went and golfed and got it for 400 feet. When Pete Alonso's hot, you can't do anything about that. The ball wasn't even in the zone. It was down in the zone, pardon me, and he just rips it. Golfs that bad boy. Like Alonso did so well against Corbin Burns, where it was down out of the zone, a little bit in. Similar type pitch there on the sinker, and he ripped as well. I mean, Alonso's home runs have been so impressive lately. Again, 5 home runs over the past 3 series. He's been on absolute fire. But the Mets need more from the rest of the club. It was just like what we saw in Game 2 against the Brewers when the Mets were losing early in that game. You get that 3-run home run by Alonso, you're down by 1, and then Lindor comes in with the grand slam to give the Mets the lead and the ultimate victory. The Mets never got that follow-up offensively, and that was their demise. And that, again, you shouldn't have to deal with that, but that's what happens when you give up 4 runs thanks to a poor start by Cookie Carrasco today. And then Trevor Williams, right after the Mets gain momentum, throws an absolute piss-poor pitch. And Trev has been a bulldog for the Mets for a great portion this year. Not here to gripe about him much, but it was a really bad pitch. And those are those little fine details that are not just making and breaking ball games, but they're making and breaking how this division is going to turn out. So that is why it's so indicative on making sure you get the job done, play your part, and hopefully secure yourself a victory. Every game is so important right now. Every single game. It's not just one. Gabriel, thank you so much for the $5 donor, brother. I appreciate that. Gabriel says, this definitely sucks, but we still control our own destiny. Have to take 2 from Atlanta and win that Nats series, but all that is easy. It's all easier said than done. Again, it's crazy that I fear the Miami Marlins. I fear these lesser opponents more than I do, aside from the Braves, like a lot of really good teams in baseball. Because the Mets step up to the plate on a consistent level, especially on the road. Mets have done really well on the road. Especially, on a consistent level against good teams. Because that's all the Mets have faced this year. They faced a gauntlet of really good teams. June, which was a ridiculous schedule out west, they still managed to stay above 500. The Mets in August, brutal schedule. And they were comfortably above 500 in that month of August. So it's almost, I don't know if it's almost like a shell shock for the Mets that they're finally getting, on paper, easier opponents, and they just don't know how to handle it outside of the Pittsburgh Pirates. But the Pirates are kind of like that anomaly because they've dominated them, but every other lesser opponent they haven't been able to match up well against. It's like you almost wish that the Mets had a harder schedule this month because I would feel more confident saying that the Mets would get themselves in more of a groove. Like, in hindsight, I do believe that the Mets getting swept by the Cubs was a good thing in helping character build for them and for them to wake up a bit. And I think if that doesn't happen, they don't go on their 6-game winning streak after, obviously. But still, it doesn't justify having a lack of performance against these lesser teams. It doesn't. And now the Mets are in a position where they absolutely need to win tomorrow with Taijuan Walker on the bump. I'm excited to see how Ty's going to do. Ty's a guy that I trust more than Cookie Carrasco right now. That is the God honest truth. He's my number 4 starter for playoffs right now. I can't trust Cookie. I can't right now. But if Ty comes out and doesn't pitch well tomorrow, man, oh man. Is Trevor Williams our number 4 starter at that juncture? Man. Man, oh man. Not fun. Not fun at all, guys. Everyone here in the live show, Wardy's top 5. You see it here. Alonso's my number 1 star, 1 for 4 with a home run, the 3 RBIs on the run scored. Number 2 star, Jeff McNeil, 2 for 4 with a run scored. The only Mets hitter to get multi-hits today. That's why he's there. David Pearson, again, Bulldog, 2 innings, gave up 1 hit, 1 walk, 0 earned runs, and 1 strikeout. Edwin Diaz, 3 Ks, 1 hit, no earned runs in the 9th. And then the umpire, again, literally helping the Mets get a walked-in run thanks to that, not 1, not 2, but 3 balks by Richard Bleiers. Crazy. Through the Mets lineup as a whole today, they had 7 hits. They had an expected batting average of 158. Again, the Mets offense was not good today. If you did not watch the game and you just say scoreboard watch, you'd say, oh, it was a close game. Unfortunate, but it was close. No. The Mets offense did not play good at all today if you're not named Pete Alonso. And Pete Alonso is the only reason why that score looks like it's reasonable, even in a loss. 158 expected batting average is inexcusable against these Miami Marlins, especially when they already traded Bass and they traded one other better relievers that they did around the deadline to Toronto. I'm blanking on the other reliever, though. I know they traded Bass, but who's the other one? Let me know in the live chat. Braves will get swept by the Mets. Knock on wood. That is not going to happen. All I care about is a series win, though. I mean, every game's important, but I'm not. Last thing I'm going to do is try to get my hopes up on a sweep. I just need the Mets to win that series. Brandon Nimmo was 1 for 4 today with a run scored. Had himself 1 nice oppo single that led to the run because of Pete Alonso getting a 3-run nuke. Lindor was 1 for 4, continuing his 12-game hit streak now with a double that we saw carried off the wall by third base. That again was driven in by Pete Alonso. Daniel Vogelbach 0 for 4, not a good day with 2 strikeouts. Mark Canha 1 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. Eduardo Escobar, not a good day, unfortunately. Eddie's been great, though, not going to grate by him much. 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. Naquin 0 for 3, and James McCann 1 for 3. Tyler McGill, 1 inning pitch, 0 hits, 0 earned runs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. What's up, Scott? Great member on the channel. Sean, thank you so much for the donut. I appreciate that. You think a neutral site is the best for both teams? Sean, thank you for the donut. I know you meant to say site and not size. I respectfully disagree with that notion, though, just because it's not going to happen. Not a chance in hell. Pardon me. No chance I see them playing on a neutral site for that series. They want the fans there. They know they would lose so much money if they don't. It's the most anticipated series now to wrap up the year by far. There's no other series in baseball that has as much hype and as much importance as that Braves-Mets matchup. They're going to make sure that fans are in the stands, and that is why, again, they're either going to play Thursday, Friday, Sunday, or they're going to have a doubleheader on Friday or Sunday. The one day that they're likely not going to play. As of now, again, things can change. As weather looks right now, Saturday looks like a washout. For me personally, I hope that's the case, just because I was gifted a birthday present to go to a concert on that Saturday. So it would work out perfect for me, especially as a fan. That way I can still cover every single game, because as of now, I was not planning to go to the concert on Saturday. I was going to blow that off as a birthday gift just to make sure I cover that game, because I know how important it is. So I do honestly hope that they don't play on Saturday, so that way everything works out on my end. As I selfishly say that, I'm not going to hold back from saying that. But I think playing on Thursday makes so much sense for this team. I really, really do. Just because, again, it's not like here's the thing. It's not even like the Braves get any leverage over the Mets in this. It's not like the Braves are playing home against the Nationals and then they get to stay home and already be prepped and ready, versus the Mets having to fly out tomorrow night after a night game to play the next day in Atlanta. No, Atlanta's in DC and they have a night game tomorrow, just like the Mets. They both have an off day on Thursday. So it just matches up perfectly if they're able to start on Thursday. Yes, you're going to have short rest. It's going to be a long night tomorrow night, having to fly to Atlanta after your game. But that really feels like it's probably one of the more feasible options right now. Do I like Epler? I mean, Epler's done plenty good for the Mets, but I was not a fan of him with the trade deadline. It was underwhelming. And I don't think it's come back to bite the Mets in the ass. Bullpen wise, it's such a big question mark. That's the big thing. And DH wise, it started off so great, and it's been the farthest thing from it now. I think the Mets got too complacent basing on uncertainties in their own organization from the bullpen standpoint and from DH standpoint. I love Mark Vientos, but how much more playing time is he going to get? I don't know. Acuna is heating up, and so is Pete Alonso. Alonso with 5 home runs in his past couple series. He's been raking. Yeah, Mets top dogs are all hitting really well right now. Mets were hitting overall really well up until today's game. But I gotta, we'll see how that Atlanta series goes. I know the Mets feed off of a great atmosphere, so I know it would be electric than being at Citi Field. But I'm not afraid of the Mets being in Atlanta. I like their chances on the road. I do, because they perform consistently. Let's not forget the Mets winning a series in Atlanta already this year, too. They lost their previous one. That was just a bad series. Regardless of Taijuan Walker and Cookie Carrasco's injuries, they just didn't show up offensively in those first 2 games. In 3 to 4 games, really, because DeGrom pitched a nice start, and they didn't get more than 2 earned runs for him. So, last series went the Braves' way. The series before that went all the Mets' way. It's going to be a very exciting atmosphere. I think the Mets are going to thrive off of being that very hated team too. And yes, Spencer Strider is out for that series. That is correct. Braves will rake against the Mets. We'll see. We'll see. Well, I would not be surprised if it's a slugfest both ways. Would not be surprised. 2007 all over. 2007 is nothing like this year, Colby. Stop the nonsense. Jesus. Only a casual fan would compare 2007 to the New York Mets, the same team that's on pace for 100 wins this year. But yes, go on with the 2007 notion. Tell me you don't watch the Mets without telling me you don't watch the Mets. This season has been absolutely amazing for this Mets team, and that's why we have such high expectations now. And that's why it hurts when they drop a game like tonight in the fashion that they do. Cookie picks the wrong time to turn into garbage. I agree. Darren Ruff is absolute garbage. Make me miss Saint Zapucki. I know Zapucki. How is he even doing with the Giants? I know he's been up with them. I don't know if he's in the minors right now. Yeah, I have no clue Zapucki's standpoint, but appreciate the dono 1200. You're right. Darren Ruff has been anything but good, unfortunately. Had a couple base knocks against the Oakland A's, but then really did not provide those big at-bats you need to in big spots in the other parts of the series. And Cookie crumble today, simply put. And guys, I don't know where we are in the like count, but continue smashing that like and subscribe button. It's very much appreciated. Thank you so much in advance. We're trying to get to a couple hundred likes by the end of the show. Trying to get to 18K subs on the channel as well, because we're less than 100 subs away now, folks, from giving away this Max Scherzer bobblehead. Once we hit 17.7K subs, we're giving away this Max Scherzer strikeout counter bobblehead to one lucky subscriber on the channel. So make sure you smash those buttons. Also, make sure to check out the Bleav in Queens podcast that we have wherever you get your podcast. Been great reviews. Thank you guys so much for that. Myself, Joe Serralo, and Anthony Recker, former New York Met, now turned MLB Network analyst. And we have some awesome merch in the description at shop.bleav.com. And all those proceeds go right back into the channel and the podcast. So thank you guys so much in advance to everyone that has bought merch so far and that will continue to get merch. It really does mean the world to every single one of us here at Bleav. So thank you guys so much in advance for that. We have a lot of different options, from a Schmuck t-shirt to Get Wrecked that we have. Schmuck is my saying, as you guys know. Then we have some fun ones to, talk down on opposing teams that the Mets do not like. We have a Stanky shirt, which is hilarious. We have a Bad Fundy shirt, meaning the Phillies. And we have a Warm-Up Jansen shirt for the Braves, even though he has not blown a save since we made that shirt. So not going to go out of my way. If he does, then I'm going to be spamming that thing on Twitter, making sure you buy it if he does it, say, in the Mets series. But if he shuts down the Mets in one or multiple games, then, then we had it coming. But make sure to check out those if you haven't already. Greatly appreciate it. And Patrick, thank you so much for the kind words, brother. I appreciate you. Thank you. Stanky sure is dangerous to wear. No, it's perfect. What are they going to do? They got nothing. All they got is Aaron Judge, who's not going to be there once the playoffs are over. So... The Smile Lady did curse the Mets. I agree with that. Sean, thank you so much for the dono. Sean, Mets had a phenomenal start to the year in 2007, like for the majority of the year, and then just collapsed so bad towards the end of the second half. That's what happened. And they ended up not even being able to do anything postseason because of it. So that is what happened in 2007. It was a great year through the first half plus, and then they collapsed so bad in the second half. It was like unprecedented what they did. And that's why you cannot compare the two teams at all. They're not even remotely close to each other. If you're the Chop, I'm looking forward to the Chop. To say I'm excited for that Braves series, you guys have no idea. Is it stressful? Of course it is. Of course it's stressful. But I'm excited as all hell for it. I just hope that the Mets are at minimum tied for first entering that series. Because if the Mets lose tomorrow and the Braves win, and the Mets are down by a game entering that series, I'm going to let you guys know right now, tomorrow's post-game show is not going to be a fun one at all. It is not. It's going to be absolutely putrid. It's going to be a really upsetting time. Marte is trying to come back for the Atlanta series. So whether he will or not has yet to be seen, but he is trying. He is getting closer and closer. But we do not know if and when he will. Zapucki's stats in 7 games, 1.74 ERA in 10 innings. He's been utilized as a reliever for San Fran, so that makes sense. Yep, just don't use him as a starter. Yeah, I'm not surprised that he's thriving well elsewhere. If you weren't born in 2007, you should be in bed right now. Depending on where you are, yeah. I'm not saying you're wrong, especially it's a weeknight. Jay, I respectfully disagree completely. I appreciate the kind words, but Pablo Lopez has been beaten up by the Mets all year long. Marlins having good pitching today wasn't the sole demise of the Mets losing today. The Mets have pistol whipped the best pitchers that they've seen from the Marlins all year. They've had some really, really good outings against Sandy Alcantara. They've had phenomenal outings against Pablo Lopez, but an 11 ERA against the Mets entering today's start. So no, not at all. The Mets just played to their caliber today and had competent pitching from their starting pitcher. They were going to win this ball game. Inexcusable to lose a game in this notion, 1,000%. So that's fine if you don't like the post-game shows when they're negative. But hey, we're keeping it real because we follow these teams every single day. We know what they're supposed to be playing to, and when they don't, they need to be called out for it. I love this team more than life itself. It needs to be acknowledged when they underperform. And tonight, they did everything that was exactly that. .158 expected ERA, a starting pitcher that can't go past 3 innings. When at entering tonight, you had a 1-game lead on the Atlanta Braves who were facing the Nationals tonight, and you knew the Braves were never going to lose that game. No. Absolute nonsense. We're going to call it how it is. Same way we call it how it is when the Mets win, and they deservedly so deserve that win. No. Yeah, no, I stayed up so late when I was in high school all the time. I don't blame you at all, Sean. Thank you so much for the dono. I appreciate that. Yeah, DeGrom's going to be really, really interesting to see how he performs against the Braves. I expect him to bounce back greatly. I always do. He's Jacob DeGrom. But yeah, we all knew how underwhelming his start was in Oakland, but I expect that to be an anomaly. Yeah, Cookie cannot be trusted right now. I agree with that notion too. Pete to 45 home runs. I don't think he's going to get 45. You need 5 bombs in 7 days, but I can definitely see him hitting at least 1 or 2 more at minimum before the season ends, for sure. Alrighty, guys, but I think that's going to wrap up the post-game show. I'm not going to go too late tonight or anything like that. I want to thank everyone so much that watch and listen to the show. I apologize, too, for one, being animated, then a little less animated. Again, still not 100%, so I can't even try to scream like crazy earlier in the show if I wanted to on a consistent level. But this was not the worst loss the Mets have had against lesser opponents, but it's still a loss. And when Cookie Carrasco just does not provide you what you needed, which at minimum could have been, I mean, literally if Cookie pitched five innings of 3-run ball today, that's still not a good start, but that's a start to keep the Mets in the ball game. No excuses when you're playing a team like the Miami Marlins and where they are this year and how their roster is currently constructed. They need to be better. I expect them to be better tomorrow. I'm proud of Pete Alonso for staying red hot while the rest of the offense just did not have it going. Normally, that's something that we don't see too often. Pete has had his struts, and especially Alonso in losses, normally has terrible numbers. So it's great to see him actually provide that offensive home run production that he's been doing so well for the past week and a half, 2 weeks now. So hopefully he keeps that up. But guys, thank you so much. Appreciate the dono again from McBlev. Why are so many people acting like losing division to an equally as good Braves team is missing the play? Exactly. Yeah, I think that's absolutely hilarious. Look, it's going to suck if the Mets don't win the division. Do not get it twisted, especially when they've had it all year long. But it's not like the sky is falling the way that it did in 2007. So yes, do not throw away this season if the Mets do not end up in first, especially hopefully they still have a great playoff run. But we all want to win the division. We all do. Mets have been in it all year long. Let's hope for the best and see what they do tomorrow and then heading into Atlanta. Thank you so much for the donut, McBlev, and thank you guys so much for the support. Have a great rest of your night, day, evening, whenever you guys watching this. This is Wardy signing out, and I'll be back live tomorrow for hopefully a more positive and jovial post-game show and Game 2, the series finale against the Marlins. Peace out, guys. Have a great one. And no matter what, as frustrated as I am right now, no matter what, let's go Mets. Peace out, guys.